Hey guys, welcome back. This week's video is going to be somewhat of a mishmash. I wasn't even planning on filming today. I had a meeting in the morning and I was just gonna take it easy. It's a holiday here in BC, it's BC Day, so maybe it's not a holiday for you, but it's a long weekend and I was just gonna take it easy. I'm going to see family later on, but then I was in here doing some plant chores and I figured I might as well turn on the camera and do it with you. Plus, I have some like growth updates I want to show you guys that they pertain to a recent video that I filmed right now. So like since I got back from my holidays, I was honestly kind of like twiddling my thumbs a little bit. I didn't have any like projects to work on for work. I knew it was coming, so I should have kind of gotten on top of plant chores a little bit more, but I didn't. I just kind of like slowly eased back into real life. But I realized that there's like tons of stuff to do, and before I get really busy, I should be like starting on them, like bit by bit, at least do something. So I have a very super random list, and I think I'll tackle, yeah, I can definitely tackle 2 of them today with you guys, and then show you some growth updates, and that's literally it. Like one of the chores is quite tedious and time consuming, so I think this is gonna be a very relaxing video. Hopefully you have some plant chores of your own to do alongside me and we can just kind of like hang out for a little bit. So I think I'm gonna start with some growth updates. So a couple of videos ago, I did a video where I like chopped up a bunch of anthuriums to sell. Like I said in that video, I was waiting for new growth to ensure that plant was gonna survive and grow before I kind of pass them on. So one cutting has already sold. Someone reached out to me, wanted to buy one of the Carib Queens, so that has sold, but I wanted to show you how fast these stumps, these cuttings took off. So I chopped that on the 26th of July, and that would have been a week and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A week and 5 days. So not even 2 weeks has passed since I chopped those anthuriums. And I just want to show you, like, I'm personally shocked at how fast they started going, and it's like not even just one of them, like they all started going right away. So if you watch that video, I chopped the bottoms off of a lot of anthuriums. They didn't have leaves, unfortunately. Like I would have preferred to have a leaf on those cuttings if possible, but it just wasn't in the cards. So I planted them in tree fern that's mixed with some perlite and pond, and they're in no drainage. And then I put this little cup on top of it, just put a little bit of tape on just to seal in that humidity, possibly protect it from spider mites and whatnot. So I had 7 leafless stumps that were like set up like this, and every single one of them has activated. I don't know about roots. I haven't really checked for roots, but I did check for growth points. So I just randomly grabbed one. This one is the pap port, and nice fat growth point has activated there. I had another pap port cutting that had a leaf and that has already gone to Charmaine. This one is Mag Ace. So it is the bottom cutting of this plant. And this one has activated, it looks like it's activating, is it 2? Yeah, it's got 2 active growth points. So one is right here, and then if I flip you around, this one is not quite so far along, but there is an active growth point down here. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, but just trust me that it's there. Another stump that's also Mag Ace, but a different specimen. So this one's actually the one I'm keeping. I sold the top cutting already at Nostra Tropical's live sale. This one has 2 active growth points. One right here, and one, can you see? Can you see? Oh my gosh. Oh no. Down here, that little light spot here is a 2nd growth point. So I have pretty good hopes that both of them are gonna like push a leaf out, and it might be like a nice bushy plant, who knows? I know there was some interest in the RA5s. I wanna hold on to it a little bit longer. I don't know why, but I am. So I still have both of the cuttings. This one has pushed that growth point right here. Get you a little bit closer so you can see. And the second one has 2 active growth points. Can you see? There's one on this side here, and there's one right on this side here. I was actually so shocked that they all pushed growth so fast. Like at best, I was expecting maybe one of them, like a very vigorous one, to start pushing growth quickly. and then maybe like half of them would be straggling and like take a little bit longer, because that's generally my experience with these stump cuts. I forgot to show you one actually. Another Carib Queen. This one is kind of slower to activate. The one that I sold already had an active growth point, but on the right side here, do you see that little bump? So this one is like the least farthest along, but it's moving. I don't often take these like butt cuts like this with roots, because for a really long time I wasn't propagating. I wasn't really selling plants because I just did not have the time. And then like since I quit my job and my life is more plant focused, it was much more feasible for me to like propagate and sell plants. And Jing has a plant business, right? So she's always kind of propagating and selling. Not like her life depends on it, but she does do it a lot more regularly than I have. Like a long time ago, she was saying that like if you were to like dome a cutting like that, it would activate much quicker. Because I think that's what she did with her Dark Phoenix. Like it wasn't really doing anything, and as soon as she domed it, it started to push growth. So when I originally potted these up, I wasn't like super sure that that was gonna be the way, but seeing how these little cuttings have like just shot out growth so fast, now I'm converted. And it also has like the added benefit of protecting it from pests for the most part. So if you're like looking to quarantine things, this can also be a way. Okay, so one of the first things on my to-do list was I wrote figure out silica, which we don't have time to figure out silica, but I did get some TPS silica. It's called Silica Gold from Charmaine. So when she was in California, she ordered some and we split a bottle. So what I have is like in a jar like this. I'd done previously some reading up on how to use silica and like what kind of silica to use, because not all silica is broken down to a form that is like readily taken up by plants. But I really wanted to figure out how I was going to use this particular silica. So certain challenges that I've been reading about on like Facebook groups and stuff like that is that, okay, wait, no, first of all, why use silica in the first place? So silica is really good for strengthening cell walls of your plants, like making cell walls form faster as well, I think is one of the benefits. People use silica to prevent the variegated parts of plants from browning off, which I don't have a lot of variegated plants, but the ones that I do have, like my Florida Beauty, sometimes I have issues browning. Like this is my very white albo, so eventually all the leaves do this. So I'm curious to see, like this is not an albo that I'm like very emotionally invested in. This was more like Lauren was about to throw this out. She was like, why don't you just grow it? And I want to see if I can prevent this from happening. I think this would be a really good like candidate to test with. Another thing that it's supposed to do, fungus gnat. Another thing that it's supposed to do is help your leaves expand better. So something like what we use CalMag for, but silica is also supposed to do that. So I'm curious to see if I use it, will my plants grow wonky leaves anymore? Like, you know, sometimes I'm trying to show you an example. Okay, this is my Anthurium Spider Ralph man. This is the cross that it is. This whole side of the leaf did not form. And also my problem child, this is my NSC Red Crystallinum. I cannot for the life of me get a leaf to properly expand. Every leaf, like this one's missing a lobe entirely. Every leaf looks like that. It's very cute and it always grows and the roots look good. So this is the type of thing that I'm trying to fix with silica. Okay, so back to the challenge of the silica. One thing that I read is that it can bind to other fertilizers in the solution and become kind of like gummy, and you're meant to add silica to water by itself and wait 30 minutes before adding other stuff. So personally, I think I'm just like, when I use silica, I'm only just gonna use silica in the water, and then the other times I'll just do fertilizer on its own, but I'm not gonna mix the two, just to kind of simplify things. The second challenge that people have said is that, and it really depends on what brand you're using, but it can increase the pH of your water by quite a lot. So for anyone who doesn't know, I feel like a lot of people will know this already, but the ideal pH, at least for aroids, is 5.5, 6.5, in and around that range. And that's the range at which point the nutrients are the most soluble and the most readily taken up by the plant. So if it's too high, the nutrients cannot dissolve into the water, and then the plants can't take it up, so you just got all these nutrients sitting there like doing nothing. And that's what they call like nutrient lockout. Last year, like a really long time ago, I'll link in the description, but I did a video where I tested the solutions at that time I was using different fertilizers, so I probably should do that again. But I tested my fertilizer solution, I tested just water runoff from my two most used substrates. So that was pond and that was soil back then. At that time, I had purchased pH down because I know that my city water is in and around like 8.2. So in my mind, I was going to need to like drop my pH artificially. But after doing those tests, I found that not only the pH was dropped by the fertilizers themselves, but the substrates I was using was also on the acidic side. So I didn't end up using the pH down. So just before I came up here, I tested the pH on I retested actually the tap water. So the tap water came in around 8.0, 8.2. It's not super precise. I was using the API master test kit for aquariums, just so I know what I'm starting with and like how much it was increasing the pH. And then I made up a solution of silica with the dilution like at the lowest amount on their recommended dilution chart. So that was for seedlings. So they recommend about 2 mils to a gallon for seedlings and like fresh cuttings. So I did that dilution, except I didn't want to make a whole gallon because I didn't have a gallon sized container. So instead of a gallon, I did 500 mils of water, and it's roughly 1 liter to a gallon. So I had to like quarter the silica amount, which would have been 0.5 mils, and then I had to half that again. So it's like 0.25 mils of silica for a 500 mil volume of water. So it's like a tiny amount for like weak plants. And I think I'm gonna start with that anyways, because I never use the full strength of anything, and I don't have much experience with silica, and I think I was a little bit alarmed or like kind of scared. I'm a little bit wary of silica because Amanda had a bad experience with silica. She used it once and she had like weird stuff going on with her plants, like weird spots and stuff, I think it was. So I'm gonna be very careful. I'm gonna use like the lowest possible dilution, and it's gonna be very safe, and I'll just try to keep on top of it. I'll say maybe like every 3rd watering, I'll add silica. So once again, the chart is kind of a rough estimate of the pH. It's not gonna be super exact. I don't have the machine to do it, and I don't really want to pay for a machine to do it. So the water came in around 8.0. The color was looking like 8.0. It may be like in between 8.0 and 8.2. And then the silica solution came in, and I think 8.4, but it can also be between 8.4 and 8.8. So that increase is maybe around 0.4, 0.5 of pH. That's not as much as I thought it might be, because I think what I read from Facebook, some people like were seeing like multiple points of increase, and then some people were actually seeing the pH was decreased, which is crazy. So now I just personally know that I have to drop my pH a little bit. Like I don't need to use tons of pH down, but I should probably use some, so that like the solution that I have is at least at the most like pH neutral, 7.0. And then the substrate that I use should probably reduce it a little bit more. It's kind of annoying, but I don't really mind using the pH down because I bought it and I haven't really been using it. So I'm kind of glad now I have a use for the pH down. I don't need to get rid of it or anything. Okay, now the very time-consuming, tedious chore that we need to tackle is harvesting Anthurium berries. So let me pull you guys to the plant in question. Come hither. I guess I could have pulled this plant out. I just wasn't sure if it was gonna be stuck on anything. Okay, let's pull you out. So this is my big Magnificum-y looking crystal mag. This was one of Lauren's mother plants that she didn't have room for, so she donated it to me, and it's got lots of berries forming. And this is one of the plant chores that can't wait, because I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, there's like berries just falling off, and some of these are looking a little bit rotty, these little brownish ones. So oftentimes you're gonna wanna wait till the berries are like poking out. So I'm gonna just pick up this one that fell off. Do you see there's that like light green layer? So that's like in here. It's like embedded into the infructescence. So oftentimes when you see a little bit of like greenish poking out, it's like actually protruding out of here. Then it's ready to just be pulled off. So, oh, more are popping off as we speak. So I was kind of waiting because I was just kind of like looking at it at a distance, and I didn't see that. So I was just kind of like waiting to see that, but then they're actually super ready and have been for a while. The ones that are like rotty like this, that are turning brown, I'm gonna still try to like plant those seeds and see, because in my mind, it's like, if a fruit tree fruits and then it drops like fruit onto the ground and the fruit rots and like bugs eat it and stuff, those seeds I think are still viable. So they, you know, in nature would still grow a plant. So I'm thinking, why not try anyways? Usually when you have berries, they're not going to all ripen at the same time. So you're gonna be like picking berries every day, every other day for a while until they're all gone. But I personally, I don't think I have time for that, because this is gonna be a very busy week of work for me. So I'm gonna pretty much take everything off, minus like these very green ones or things that just don't wanna move. And then we're gonna plant them up. So I'm gonna do a couple here with you, and then we're just gonna time lapse the rest. Here's a good one to show you, this fat guy here. So you just really press your finger on it and just roll. And depending on the species, whatever cross it is, it can contain multiple berries and contain one berry. Maybe it might contain 0 berries if it's sterile. Just pick another one at random. This is kind of brownie, but I rolled it so lightly and it already came off. So I'm gonna reposition the camera now, and we're gonna just work at getting this guy super naked. I've never had this many berries in one go. Even at Lauren's place, I haven't been the one to harvest berries. So I usually will pull them off onto like a damp paper towel, and then I'll like squeeze the seeds out from here. Actually, the ones that I pulled off earlier, I should probably put on here. Just so they stay near to moisture. If I get sidetracked or something, they're not gonna dry out, because I've already harvested some earlier. And what I found is that like the juicy fruit part of this was not that thick. So I think that's called the mesocarp. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's the endocarp. But anyways, it's that juicy layer that surrounds the seed. So it's actually wasn't even worth eating. I have never tried an Anthurium berry before. I heard it's sweet, but I'm not really one to eat plants or eat my plant matter. People like to lick their Hoya flowers. That honestly has never appealed to me. But if you were gonna eat these berries, you're not gonna get much nutrition out of it, because it's literally 2 seeds like this covered in skin, and that's it. I've seen other berries that have a lot more juice around it, but this is not a very juicy one. Honestly, this is like pimple popping ASMR. It is very soothing. Okay, let's speed this up. I'm gonna start my way here and move my way here, because I think it's ripening from here upwards. That might not be the case, but in my mind it makes sense, because when it produces pollen and when it produces stigmatic fluid, like every stage it always starts here and then works its way here. So I'm gonna start here and then just stay in one spot, because I keep jumping around. All right, so this is pretty much pretty much harvested. There are a few like really deeply embedded in here that just don't want to come out. I think we're going to leave it at that anyways, because look how many berries I've got. While I was pulling off seeds there, you probably would have noticed that some of them I was like really like popping out and like really picking at it with my fingernails. And it's not really recommended to do so. You should really wait until the berry like kind of protrudes a little bit, and you can just really gently push it and it'll just come off. But I pulled those ones out anyways because I'm gonna tell you a little secret. I don't care. But genuinely, I don't care. There's a million seeds here, and it's not like a very, you know, expensive hybrid or anything. It was really just like, why not kind of pollination. So the main thing I want to get out of this is I want a variegated Anthurium. I wanted to pollinate this massive behemoth of a inflow because it would produce a lot of berries, and that would thereby increase my chances of getting a variegated plant out of it, just for fun. Like, I'm not opposed to selling these plants, but my plan is to germinate these and grow little seedlings, maybe like 2 leaves, maybe 3 leaves. We'll see what the spatial situation is in my plant room and elsewhere, but it's at that point that I would sell it. I know there are some people who are interested in buying just seeds. Maybe I'll throw some up on the NST website, who knows? But the plan is not to sell them the way they are. So if I harvested them too early, they may not germinate. They may be really, really dwarfed. They may grow at like way slower speeds than the other ones because they just didn't have as much time to develop. But I don't care. The next step is to get the little casing off the what did I call it? Mesocarp, and just expose the seeds themselves. And then I'm gonna get the seeds into water, and I'm gonna swirl them around and clean them a little bit. I think there's like berries all over the floor. Oh my gosh, there's berries all over the floor. In theory, that juicy, sugary lining shouldn't harm the plant, but it can maybe increase the chances of fungal issues. I know that it's a step that a lot of people do, and I typically do that. I don't deep down in my heart think that it's super necessary, because that's not what happens in nature, but I'm gonna do it anyway, just to increase the chances of my plants or my seeds not rotting. I know this is not the best angle, but we're literally filming on top of an IKEA bin right now. So I'm gonna just like isolate out a few at a time. And what I do, I'm gonna crop you in so you can see what I'm doing. Just take one and just, well, I'm gonna take a juicier one. I'm gonna take this one. And I'm going to just push it down with my fingers. Whoops. And the seeds will just pop off. And then you'll be left with however many seeds are in the berry and then like a skin. And then we just rinse and repeat. This is like the most tedious part. I'm sure there are faster ways of doing this that involve like mesh bags and things like that. I just don't really have that. I don't have a mesh bag. I do have like sieves and things like that. I want to test something. I'm sure I could have Googled this answer or look at it on Facebook. Oh no. What I want to see, okay, that one only had 1 seed. What I want to see is if the skin is still attached. Okay, I do it like that, this one here. And I put this, including, oh man. Okay, so I'm gonna put this, focus, into the water. If I swirl it around, no. I thought maybe the skin would float, but it doesn't. Now I just ruined my water. Okay, I fished out the skin. So we're back to square one. We're just gonna do it the way that I know how. This is the kind of thing I would do while watching like the Kardashians or something. Very mindless, and I can just like watch TV and work on these seeds. But we are roasting in the plant room right now. So I think what I'm gonna do, because I can imagine this is incredibly boring for you to watch, I'm gonna cut back when I've finished skinning these seeds, and then we're gonna move on to the next step. So be right back. Okay, we're finally done. This is the aftermath of my little workstation. I hated that whole process. I can't tell you how much I hated it. I've never done that many berries all at once. Here it is in the water. I've already rinsed and like poured out the water, because like the little, well actually you can still see a few floating around in there, but those little pulp things are still left in there. So I've like rinsed, stirred, poured out like maybe 5 times. That took me like 45 minutes, and like halfway through, not even halfway through, I was like, I probably should be looking up a YouTube video or something on Facebook to tell me like the fastest and most efficient way to do this. But at that point I was already like deeply invested in like, I don't know, avenging myself. I was in it, not necessarily in it to win it, but I was in it, and we finished it, and like I really hated that whole 45 minutes. Anyways, I'm not gonna worry too much about these little pulpy floaty guys. So luckily they do sink. So if you pour the water out, most of the pulp will pour out, and then what I'll do is I'll put all of these onto a dry paper towel. So I'm just gonna pour out the seeds. Well, that worked quite well. So these, unfortunately, are gonna have to fit into 2 containers. I have one takeout container I've already prepped with tree fern. I'm gonna do tree fern because I don't want to fuck around with like moss and a million little seedling roots. So we're gonna do that. And I have a slightly bigger one here, which is actually like a better one, but this is from the dollar store. It's like a clear container, and I like it because it's quite shallow. So like I could get it really close to light if I wanted to. And there's like light from the sides as well. So if I did half, like roughly, that's a lot of seeds. And I'm not gonna even be able to be like very precise about like spacing them out. So this is not really recommended, you guys, but this is what I'm doing. I can go in with like my little curved tweezers later and just spread them out a little bit more. But you guys, this is not a tutorial on how to properly plant Anthurium seeds. This is my could not care anymore after skinning like I don't know how many hundreds of berries. And also at the same time, I need to leave for dinner in like 20 minutes, and I still need to get changed and fix my face and stuff like that, and my hair. This is fine. This is what happens in nature, kind of, except these seeds would be encased in bird or rodent poop. Had it been like, I don't know, a very small batch, I would have definitely, you know, been a little bit more meticulous about planting them properly, but there's just too many of them to be very, very precise. I'll just manually kind of spread them out a little bit, but I'm not burying them in the substrate. I want them to be exposed to light. And then what's gonna happen within the next week, if they are going to germinate, is that a little fuzzy root will poke out, and then a leaf will usually follow. And I usually find like if it hasn't germinated within the first like 7 to 10 days, it's probably not gonna germinate. So yeah, that's the seeds. Let me spread this one out. And then, as with pretty much all seeds that I know of, you want to keep it a little bit more wet at the beginning until they grow into like decently sized plants, like past the 2-3 seedling stage, because they just need more water at this point. So, hello. Just gonna wet that. The substrate was already kind of damp to begin with, but we're gonna make sure that all the seeds get some moisture. Like that. Same for this one. Cover that up. And the nice thing about this is that as long as it's in a warm spot, you can pretty much put it anywhere as long as there's light. You don't need to worry about humidity. So I could put this in like one of the shelves in here, just under grow lights, because the room is really warm. Like I'm just sweating being in here. 11 minutes before I need to be out the door now. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. And I know this video is like not very interesting, so I'm gonna be coming back later in this week. I'm not really sure when, maybe in like 3 days time, and like we'll do some more chores together. So see you in a few days. So it's been a few days and we're back, but I had this whole thing planned, right? I was gonna be like, oh, okay, on Thursday we're gonna repot my Politiflorum, and then we're probably gonna like clean up the plant room. But then I like totally forgot that they're ripping up the street in front of my house. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. It's freaking loud, like the house is shaking. I decided to scrap the repot. Don't worry, there will be repots coming up in the near future, but I think I'm gonna repot my Politiflorum off camera, and then I'll just insert the footage of what it looks like. So what it looks like right now, and so many of you have been telling me that this needs a repot. So I've been like complaining, right? So this is my big Politiflorum. I have two. One is like a newer import, and it's like the narrow leaf one. This is like my regular one. It still has a couple of nice leaves, but it's losing leaves faster than it's growing leaves. Like this one is on the way out. This one is on the way out. And the newest leaf that it put out, that's how much it expanded. And it also looks like it got hit with spider mites. And the root system looks healthy. It's a little dehydrated, but like it needs bigger pants, as Charmaine would say, and what some of you guys have suggested. So you guys are totally right. This needs a bigger pot. I did get a big glass vessel from Charmaine the other day when I was at her house. It's not the biggest glass vessel on planet Earth, but it's definitely bigger than this one. And I also got some leca from Lauren. I've been waiting to get like a gigantic like body bag size to share with Charmaine, but I got a little bit just to tie us over until the shipment comes, so I can actually pot this no drainage. The thing is, like, I have had this in tree fern for so long, and it seems to really like the tree fern, but what I want to do is do a tree fern soil mix, something more nutritious. This just looks like it needs a little bit of a boost. So tree fern soil, I've never had a bad experience with it, and we're just gonna let her rehab in that substrate, and hopefully she'll be back to giving me really big luscious leaves and holding on to more leaves, hopefully by fall winter. All right, so I'm just adding this little bit in for editing Alice, just so it makes a little bit more sense for you watching this. The repot did happen, but it did not happen at all the way I said it was going to. And you'll see what I mean. But everything I did say in the plant room earlier today, I do stand by. That would have been a great plan, but it didn't end up going that way. So I'll still play the footage, and then we'll continue on with this hot mess of a video. I don't know what this video is, honestly. I'm gonna upload it onto my computer and do what I can, and we'll have a great time. All right, bye. Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, what the fuck? Look at this. I'm glad you can't see my face right now. So, I'm not gonna need that. I've literally never done something so stupid. So this is gonna get watered. Nothing is going to come out of this vessel. Although, what the fuck? Okay, I'm not freaking out so much because I have a second Politiflorum. And that one is doing really well. So we're just gonna start over with this one. But we are going to cut off the yellowing leaves because, I mean, why not? And then while we have it out here, we are gonna pot them up and we're gonna treat it for spider mites. Right now I'm using the Dr. Doom Spider Mite Knockout. Oh my gosh, you guys. What is this video turning into? Okay. Charmaine swears by this. Maybe swears by is like a strong language, but she did say that this works really well. And I think it's because there's like oil in here and you can see that like it's white, right? And it's not really like evaporating. I can only describe this consistency and the texture of the spray is like lotion. And I think that's really the key, is that oil is suffocating the spider mites. It's not necessarily like killing on contact, but she's had issues with this spray burning emergent leaves, even with like wiping down and turning lights off and stuff. So do proceed with caution if you are using this spray, but at this point, I don't even care. I just want the spider mites gone. And the leaves aren't on this plant, minus like a couple of them, aren't anything to write home about anyways, because it's been kind of in decline for some time. So I'm just like working that into like all the little dimples and grooves and along the midrib. And then I'll do the same to the undersides too. But it really feels like you're rubbing sunscreen on someone because it's quite greasy, but it has this white cast as well. Like, yeah, that's basically the texture of the spray. Very, very strange. She said it was oily, so I wasn't really expecting lotion, but it's kind of also acting as like a bit of a leaf shine, which actually doesn't look so bad on velvety plants. I did this spray on my Floriosum and it looks kind of luscious. Kind of like the look of the lotioned up plants. Last leaf, this is a pretty one, this one here. And then I'm just gonna rinse the stem off and like the petioles, I guess, in water. Just for any like spider mite stragglers, I might as well. I don't like to take the sheaths off, but I don't want any spider mites hiding in here either. But if you take the sheaths off, then you're left with a really disgustingly looking dicky stem. But this is the only way that I can make sure that there's no spider mites hanging out underneath. Oh look, it was pushing a leaf too. All right, I still cannot believe that happened. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going with one of these because it's a rehab plant. I would normally do a plastic cup, but it's quite heavy. So we're going to root it like this. And tree fern fiber is what we're gonna use because I considered using water to root this, but I personally know that if I use water, I'm just not going to repot it anytime. Like I'm just gonna put it off and put it off and put it off. And I know that Politiflorum roots in tree fern really well, but usually I have some starter roots to work with. This is the leca, by the way, from NST. These are actually so light compared to classic, like the terracotta leca. It actually feels like cereal, like Cocoa Puffs. I'm just trying so hard to remain jolly because I filmed everything else already, and I was like in the original footage, like talking about how I'm gonna do it, and I just really did not think that we'd be here, and yet we're here. I'm just adding the tree fern to the top because I don't have roots to fit in here, so I can literally just make a hole and then stick the stem in and then stabilize it after. So I'm gonna actually pot you at the back here. So one thing with pendant anthuriums that I've made the mistake of not doing is not leaving enough clearance for the plant to crawl over and down over the lip, the vessel. And that has meant that like when it hits the side, it starts to curve around and it starts to look really strange. So potting it high enough or just angling it so that it actually can like clear that lip is really helpful. Otherwise you're having to repot as soon as it hits the side of the vessel, when it can really just like climb over and down. Oh my gosh. I don't even know. How am I gonna edit this so that it makes sense? All right. So that's my repot. But yeah, I am going to stick this into the tent because it will root faster. It's super warm and humid in there. So I guess you are starting on a different journey than we expected. You're taking a unexpected pit stop in Rootlessville. So that's my Politiflorum segment over. Back to you, Alvin. The other thing I wanted to show you guys is like the few day update for the seeds that we so carelessly sowed. So this is one of the containers. I'm gonna like kind of estimate 90% of the seeds are kind of doing something. So if you've ever planted Anthurium seeds, like a really fresh seed straight out of the berry will often be kind of like beigey, yellowy kind of color. And sometimes they'll be kind of green to start with. Like some of mine were quite green. Some of them were like more pale whitish, not really white, but you know what I mean? So one thing that you'll start to see as it's germinating is that they'll start to turn green. And on one end of the seed, you'll see something start to protrude out. So like here are these little nipple looking things. And eventually it will turn into fuzzy little roots. And then usually the leaf will follow straight after that. So we're seeing like it's working. I have it completely closed, this container lid. And I have it under two 10-watt Barina lights. So in about a week or two, we should be seeing little tiny leaves, or at least the start of them. But yeah, despite having like harvested those berries or those seeds a little bit prematurely, at least like half of them I would say, they're doing okay. I think they stayed on the plant just long enough to be viable seeds. Whether that will result in kind of like weak plants, I don't know. I don't have enough experience with this to know how that will affect the plant, but the mother plant is huge. It's very established, so I think it'll be fine. And then just besides those little updates, if I'm gonna be like completely honest with you guys, I've been in like kind of a funk these last few weeks since returning from holidays, and it's been difficult to kind of get like super motivated with plant chores, which is kind of what this video was meant to do, is to motivate me. There's something in my eye, sorry, one second. Yeah, I don't think it's anything to do with the plants and my collection. I think partly it is to do with my collection because I'm feeling slightly overwhelmed with the size of my collection right now, especially in terms of plants that I don't really like. They don't spark the same joy that they used to. So I feel this this weight on me that I need to declutter again. But really, I feel like it's probably not the plants. I think deep down inside, I think it's more like, it's like somewhat like a mini midlife crisis, where I'm like, what are you doing with your life? Like, we're now a few months into like not having a salaried full-time job, and it's fortunately going okay. Like I haven't been without work. It's just been a little bit weird, and it's put me into like a weird headspace that makes it really hard to kind of really be present for my collection. So I think the best thing mentally for me right now is to declutter, which is really nice because I do work with North Shore Tropicals, so there is this outlet to be able to sell my plants, which I am so so grateful for. That's not to say that like my collection does not bring me an immense amount of joy. It really does. It's like the upkeep, the maintenance of the collection that is like feeling very overwhelming for me right now. I also know that like with a big cleanup, like repots, plants kind of trimmed back and looking nice will give me that like refresh that I need. So I just need to get on with it. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it on camera because like the whole world is like being torn down outside my house. Anyways, before I sign off, I just want to show you like just a couple of random updates. More for me, I think, than for you, because when I see like new leaves, it's a serotonin rush, right? I do think I personally need it. So the first one that I'm kind of excited about is my RA5 Swamp Bunny cross from Amanda. I don't show this one as often as my RA5. I don't know why. I really don't. I think like just to show you them side by side. So this is RA5, like Papillolamnum RA5 crossed with Papillolamnum Swamp Bunny. This is my RA5 self. So they're quite different, I want to say. So this one is definitely a lot smoother than this one. Like here you can kind of see the texture difference. This is definitely darker and it's way more elongated. I want to say it's been a little bit more difficult than the RA5 for me personally. I've had issues with it rotting. That's why I have it in like a drainage pot with ponds so I can flush it through. But I just looked at the roots and I found some rot on it, which is exactly what happened the last 2 times I repotted this plant. But she is growing fine. It just pushed up this leaf and it's definitely the biggest one I've grown. And it's super cute. I really like how tall the lobes are and that these ones in particular are overlapping. I hope that it continues to do that because I think overlapping lobes are just so freaking precious. Speaking of the RA5, I forgot to show this to you earlier when I was showing you the stump updates. And I was saying in the video where I chopped it, I wasn't gonna sell any of the cuttings until I knew that the mother plant was gonna be okay, which I didn't really think it was gonna tank because Lauren has cut hers so many times. And I wouldn't say that it like massively took off to the pond like the way Dark Phoenix does, like it was rooting within days. This one has been a couple weeks and we only have a little bit of roots, but we do have roots. Right here is that healthy new root growth. At first, the leaves were sitting quite low down. The newest leaf in particular, it did take quite a beating because it was like sitting really low. It was like very dehydrated and then eventually it was moving up, but on the way up, it was like brushing up against things. But she's back to her normal like perky self, so thank God. Okay, another little update. This is my Spider Ralph man. The same plant I was showing you earlier. So in the last few days it has pushed out a leaf and it's been expanding and it looks like just sickeningly beautiful. I wanted it to not be in a way because I wanted to be able to test silica on it and see the result. Although if this is what happened right after, I might have like attributed the results to silica when I probably shouldn't have. But anyway, this is one of those like color shifty pearlescent kind of leaves. The emergent leaves are so pretty. It's like a dark purple, but there's like this like super dark green shift. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that. It's almost holographic, especially in and around the veins. It's a little bit more green, but it's like this like emerald green. It's so pretty. So this is one of the repots I did before I went on vacation. I moved it, I think it was in tree fern fiber, no drainage, and it got a little rotty. And then I moved it to tree fern fiber with some pon at the bottom, and it was taking a long time to root. Those plants that I repotted like before I went away, this was probably like a month and a half, 2 months ago, they rooted so freaking fast. But this one was straggling along, but I'm happy to report it's got a really nice big juicy root coming down the bottom. And one of these days I do need to pull everything out and treat it all for spider mites, like spray every leaf down in the dark. This time I learned my lesson. I think I'm probably gonna take that opportunity to like move some plants out and just make space, because I do have some exciting plants coming in the very near future, which you will see in a future video, don't worry. Back to the updates. This is a new little seedling that I got from Lauren, which is not her hybrid, it's the hybrid by Jesse. Jesse kind of works every now and then at the shop. He has like a full-on big boy job, but he just loves plants so much, so he helps Lauren with like events and like live sales and things like that. So this is his hybrid. It's a hybrid of Anthurium magnificum and nigrolaminum GG. So I'm really excited to grow this one out because I love nigrolaminum GG, and I think there's just so much potentially cool things that could happen with this plant because GG is such a nice texture plant, but it's super glossy, super leathery, and then magnificum's obviously velvety with silver. So I am very curious to see what this will look like. I'm sure the hybrid exists out there. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Equigenera or Equiflora has it, or sorry, Tropicals, but I've personally never seen it. So Lauren made sure that me and Charmaine each had one of these seedlings to grow out. It is in moss, unfortunately. So I am going to get it into like probably tree fern soil? Tree fern soil? Tree fern? If you know, you know. Okay, last like super random update. I don't know if I really talked about this specimen of this plant very much. Oh no, I have. Oh right, it was my back from vacation looking at growth update stuff. So this is my Begonia Labersii. Right now, she's like unstoppable. I killed this plant the last time I got it from Amanda, and also Charmaine killed her cutting, and not gonna lie, I really thought it was not the begonia for me because I was gonna keep killing it. And then she sent it again, and then it started to die back again. But Charmaine, I don't know what she did. I know she used stratum to root it, but she gave it to me in this like little soy sauce container with a very thin layer of stratum, and it was drying out like in a day. So I got it into pond right before I left, and like it really likes it. I know that pond doesn't work that well for a lot of people for begonias. I've heard that comment several times before, but I find it kind of nice for begonia. I don't know, like as long as you can feed it well, because I do think begonias are quite heavy feeders. But anyway, check out these new leaves. They are so stinking pretty. It is so silver, but when they come out, the leaf is very red, and this like almost hardened color is really black. I've been finding personally that the fully hardened leaves go a little bit greener, like a little bit lighter, especially like this one right here. But like this like pre-hardened leaf is like the blackest. So maybe I do need to get it under like lower light to get it even blacker, because I do think that this looks a little bit like it's reaching for the light in front of it. It is such a beautiful begonia. I don't really see this really anywhere. I don't know where Amanda would have gotten her original plant, but yeah, maybe I'm gonna have to bring some to the shop and propagate these for people, because this is such a show-stopping begonia. It's like so pretty. And in case anyone was wondering, the texture is kind of velvety. It's got that like kind of silicone-y velvety feeling. Very similar to other velvety begonias, except that it just has like a super bumpy texture, because all the parts in between the veins are raised. If you can see, like it's like very quilted. So it's just got everything. It's got dark, it's got velvety, it's got texture. Thank you, Charmaine, for reviving that plant, because I feel like that would have always been like the one that got away if I was able to grow it, you know? Anyways, that is it for me today. That is this week's weird mishmash. I don't even know what this video is, honestly, but the next video will be better. This was what I tell myself every video, and I still haven't made a good video. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a like. If you don't like it, don't worry, I completely understand. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah. Thank you.